Good evening, Crimson Tide Nation, and welcome to the 32nd edition of Alabama Primetime Live. All right here on Alabama The Voice College Football. Yours truly, Jackson Johnson, and I will be joined by our guest co-host and our Tennessee guys at Tennessee at The Voice College Football in just a little bit. But we've got a little message we want to tell you about. We've got merch all right here for Alabama at The Voice College Football. And you definitely want it. You definitely need it. And especially when it's getting close to being really cold. The trucker hats, the dad hats, the t-shirts, the sweatshirts, the heavyweight t-shirts. Dude, the polos get too cold for you. I mean, that long hair is not going to save you. But this game day mug will. It'll save you from the cold. The tumbler cup will save you from the cold. And the can cooler is definitely going to save you from the cold. All right here on Alabama The Voice College Football. He is the founder and owner of Crimson Coverage. He is the one and only himself, Brody Smoot, and he is guest co-hosting tonight on Alabama Primetime Live on Alabama The Voice College Football. And he is the co-host of Tennessee at The Voice College Football Monday nights and a contributor to Balls Wire. And I got to tell you, this guy's a magician. He's the one and only himself, Tucker Harlan. And we have his co-host from Tennessee at The Voice of College Football, the one and only himself. And the mustache looks like Raleigh fingers. And I got to say, it's a stylish one, that's for sure. Give it up for Jordan Bingley. How are you gentlemen doing tonight?
Great.
Doing really well. Looking forward to the third Saturday of October.
I know, right? It's awesome, and it's going to be amazing. Well, gentlemen, are we ready to discuss some position battles for this matchup?
Yes.
Definitely. Absolutely. Like in Gravity Falls. Love that show. But in all seriousness, for those that are tuning into this game, and we'll start with you, Tucker, then we'll go to Jordan and go to Brody. What are the position battles that you are looking out for in this 2025 edition of the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry for the third Saturday in October?
So there's a few that I'm watching. Obviously, the quarterback duel is going to be intriguing. Ty Simpson has played some very nice football here of late, and Joey Aguilar has been a very nice find by Tennessee out of the transfer portal and was essentially a trade made by Tennessee and UCLA. So looking forward to that one in particular. Do want to see what Tennessee can do on the defensive line against Alabama's offensive line, just because I do think that is a weakness Tennessee could exploit with an offensive line that hasn't been stellar in pass pro and a defensive line that can eat in the pass rush for sure. And then also I'm just looking to see what Tennessee's linebackers can do against Alabama in the run game and even in the pass game too, to a lesser extent with the tight ends, just because you've got some talented linebackers in this Tennessee group, but you also have a couple that are like elder statesmen who are good players or can be good players, but just haven't always been. Like, for example, Jeremiah Thielander is one of Tennessee's starting linebackers. The coaching staff has referred to him as a tackling machine. But here's the thing. Sometimes you watch him out there and he looks like a 3-star. Let's just call that like it is. And by the way, Tennessee will not have one of its linebackers, Edwin Spillman, for the first half due to a targeting penalty called in the second half of the Arkansas game. So they'll be trotting out Ben Bolton, a no-star linebacker, to replace him for that part of the game. He's been getting quality playing time for a lot of the season. But if it tells you anything, I was in the same youth league as Ben Bolton once upon a time. He did well in the high school ranks, but high school and college are both very different games. So that is one area that I'm intrigued to see, just because Tennessee has struggled there some. But Alabama also a little bit weaker at running back going into this game, just in the wake of the Jam Miller injury.
Yeah, I mean, I agree a lot with what Tucker had to say there. I mean, especially the offensive line and defensive line, or what Tennessee's defensive line, that is, because I think Tennessee right now, if they're not number one, they're like number 2 right now in sacks in the country. And it would be interesting to see how that goes, especially because, I mean, since we've been covering Tennessee this season, it seems like the defensive line has been the strong suit. And then the rest of the defense has been quite iffy, to be honest. So that's going to be an interesting matchup to watch for sure. But also, I'm excited to see if Chris Brazzell can have a bounce back game because he got locked up last week. I think he only had like one catch, I think, for 5 yards, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, if he's not able to recover from that, then I mean, his Biletnikoff chances are pretty much out the window. So it would be easy. It would be interesting to see how he fares against Alabama's defensive backs, which I don't have a whole bunch of familiarity with, but I know how Alabama's been dominating recruiting for the past forever. So I assume that there's a lot of athletes out there that are going to give him a tough time. So I'm excited to see that matchup probably more than anything.
Brody, you're up next. Good buddy.
Man, I think that they made some good points. There's several different position battles that you could look at, but I would say the one that I'm definitely circling is Alabama's D line versus Tennessee's O line. Alabama's struggled to stop the run. Tennessee averages over, I want to say, 200 yards a game, if I'm not mistaken, on the ground. They got a very prolific offense. Alabama's got, obviously, Jeremiah Beeman's out for the season. James Smith's been banged up. Jamarian Latham's out. You got some injuries up front. So some of them younger guys are going to be playing, and they like to sprinkle in the pass, obviously, and throw it vertically. So I think it's going to be challenging for Alabama up front. I know Tennessee has a good offensive line, but I think that's a key for Alabama to pull off the win. I think they got to be able to stop the run, and if they do like they did against Missouri, then I think they have a great chance. But I think the key is just being able to stop the run.
No doubt about it. I mean, that is definitely going to be a position battle. Look out for is the running backs versus that Tennessee defensive line. Like what's going to be happening now that we don't have Jam Miller for basically this week. And I mean, let's be real. Jam Miller needs to rest. He's got to rest. But are we going to see some more Kevin Riley? Are we going to see some more? Are we going to see some Ackland Deer? That'll be a good one. But the wide receivers at Alabama versus the Tennessee CBs, that's definitely a position battle I'm keeping an eye on. And who's going to be keeping their eye on Josh Cuevas? That's going to be a good one. Because Cuevas, oh man, he's going to be amazing. But how about Aguilar versus that Bama defense? Because I think Bama can put a ton of pressure on Aguilar. And what can that defense of Tennessee do against Simpson? Like how have you felt about the defense this season, gents?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a mystery with this team. I think personally that, and you mentioned the Aguilar and versus that Alabama defensive line. I will counter that a little bit by saying Tennessee has been very good actually in pass protection this year, despite having what's not been a fully healthy offensive line for most of the season, with David Sanders being out for a good portion of the season to start the year. So we'll see how much of an impact that is. Obviously, environment could play a little bit of a factor there with it being a night game. So that's something to watch. But no, I think Tennessee can definitely get after Ty Simpson. Just with what we've seen this year, going on the road as a defense, it's much easier for you to communicate. And I think that's something people don't realize sometimes. So I do expect Tennessee to be able to get after Ty Simpson in this game. It's just if he finds running lanes, then you could be looking at potential problems for Tennessee against Ty Simpson. And you mentioned the cornerback battle, Jackson. I think that's something to keep an eye on too, because there are trustworthy insiders from the Tennessee football program saying any help that you will get it or you wanted at cornerback this year that you thought you were going to get with guys returning from injuries, you're probably not going to get it anytime soon. So it's going to be a real challenge for Tennessee, has been all year. Real baptism by fire for guys like Ty Redmond, Colton Hood at least had some experience going in, but yeah, it's going to be a tough battle just because we know that these guys are in sync with Ty Simpson so much to the point where they can create things on the fly that just weren't there before. And I've seen it with all three of Alabama's starting wide receivers, so it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything Tucker's had to say. I mean, just like noticing throughout the year, I mean, Tennessee's defensive line is definitely the best part of the defense. I mean, they can create pressure all day, but like Tucker said, I mean, if Ty Simpson can escape the pocket, I mean, there's sometimes Tennessee sends too many guys on the blitz and then they don't set the edge all the time. And then that just leaves a lane right open to the side for Ty Simpson to run. And that's something Tennessee's going to have to keep an eye on because Tennessee's struggled stopping the run this year. I mean, we saw it with Mississippi State with Bothwell running wild. We saw it even last week at Arkansas with Washington. I mean, he had a spectacular game too. So running the football is something. If Alabama can get that going against Tennessee, then Tennessee might have a problem. But they are going to create pressure. They are going to get to Ty Simpson, and but he's a composed quarterback, so I don't know how much it affects him. I know he has a lot of experience being one of Saban's guys, so I feel like if anyone would be able to deal with the pressure, I would assume it would be Ty Simpson. But yeah, Tennessee's defensive line is by far the best part of their defense, and then I don't know, stopping the run's an issue for Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see who can stop the run for Saturday. Like, because that is definitely going to be a key to victory, which we will definitely get to keys to victories later on in this show. But I'm curious about defense because it's going to be quite a battle. I mean, I don't really think this will be a high scoring game. It's not going to be. It doesn't really feel like it'll be. I mean, you're basically going to have Aguilar and Simpson go against one another. And I will say, Tennessee is still thanking God Nico's not there anymore.
Yeah, that's one where you and I are going to have to disagree, Jackson. I actually think it could be quite a high-scoring game because, and I've said this to Jordan on our show, Tennessee Volunteers Live, but if you can score 41 points on Georgia and you can put up that kind of damage on a defense like Georgia, you can do it with anybody in the SEC. And I get it. They've had some problems at times this year on defense, even against Alabama in the first half. They did better in the second half, but they did struggle a little bit at times in that game. But no, I think Tennessee can score points on Alabama. It's just going to be a matter of whether or not Tennessee can stop Alabama, which is why I do think it could play out a little differently. I don't necessarily think it means Tennessee's going to win the game by any means, as we discussed last night. But I do think it's going to play out a little differently than a bit of a lower scoring game. I don't think you're going to see a 24-17 type game like what you saw last year in Neyland.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. I mean, Tennessee's defense, like I said, they've been struggling quite a bit, and I'm like looking at Alabama's like stats here too. They do have the number 21 red zone defense, which could be an issue with Tennessee coming to scoring, and they have the number 18 defense. But outside of that, I mean, Alabama's like quite far back in a lot of these categories. But like I said, Tennessee is too. I mean, Tennessee's got number 100 total defense in the country right now. So that's why I also think that it's going to be a high scoring game as well. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I just don't see Tennessee's defense being able to stop the pass very well. So I could see Ty Simpson having a great game. And we saw it with the Georgia game too. I still think that Gunnar Stockton's not thrown as many yards against another team as he did against Tennessee. I could be wrong, but I know that like he went from throwing like maybe close to like 200 each game, and then he threw for something like 371 or something like that against Tennessee. And I think Ty Simpson's a much better quarterback than Stockton. So I think I think Alabama's going to put up some points in this game.
What do you think, Brody?
Man, honestly, I got to disagree too, Jackson. I know Alabama's defense has been playing great ball. But just knowing the track record that Josh Heupel has on offense and the points they've been putting up, Alabama's been in several shootouts with them over the years. Joey Aguilar, aside from maybe the Georgia game, hasn't made a whole lot of mistakes, careless mistakes, and that department. And obviously, Ty Simpson is as consistent as any quarterback in the country. So, I could definitely see it being a high scoring affair. I know both defenses have had their share of issues and ups and downs, but I think the key is, which team's able to run the football, because that's going to open up the passing attack and create, bigger chunk plays. Alabama's had an issue with giving up several chunk plays, especially against Florida State and several against Vanderbilt, several against Missouri as well. So, I think it's going to be a high scoring affair. It usually has been the past few years. So that's the way that I'm leaning.
Well, before we get to the key players to watch and then to the keys to victory and our score predictions, Halloween is near. We got to come up with some money to get some good Halloween candy. And I think I know of a way, and it's making top-notch predictions. But who do I need to go to? I know a guy. Brody, you know a guy?
I'm not sure who you're thinking of.
Jordan, you know a guy? Tucker, you know a guy?
Who's delivering the candy this year? Do you know somebody?
Well, more like somebody who's delivering top-notch predictions. That's really going to feel like getting a lot of candy. I think I know a guy.
Do you?
Ooh, I think we all do.
Yes.
Let's see his doppelganger, shall we?
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.
And that is why you go to Mark Rogers, Steve Dace from Michigan Podcast, Matt Zemek from Trojans Wire, USC Primetime Live, and Corey Bratta and Steve Merrill. All right there on the Voice of College Football, where you can get top-notch bets and top-notch predictions. All right here. Well, we've got some key players to watch in this 2025 edition of the third Saturday in October. And, besides Aguilar, for those who've not been watching the Tennessee Volunteers, gentlemen, who are the guys that we need to look out for?
Ooh, there's a handful that you need to look out for that I'll say. It's all relatively discovered at this point on the offensive end. I'd have to say with Deshaun Bishop at running back, and he does plan on playing. Chris Brazel is one to look out for if he gets going. He didn't do much last game, as we already mentioned. But you look at some of the other guys too. Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley are both very capable of making big plays. So those are two guys that I'd mention. If you haven't seen them make or have productive outings, Staley had one last week. He had 6 catches for 109 yards. He's a receiver from South Carolina. And you know what happened the last time a receiver from South Carolina went against Alabama? He caught 6 catches, went for 207 yards and 5 touchdowns. So we like our South Carolina wide receivers in Tennessee. On the defensive end, there's a handful of guys to watch for, edge rushers in particular. One that I'll say that is beginning to emerge on this team is Jordan Ross. Somebody posted it. I think James Foster on X posted it earlier today, but this dude's highlight tape is explosive. We've seen it in both the Georgia and Arkansas games for Tennessee this year, and he may be the next best undiscovered talent by the rest of the league. So that's a guy that I would have my eyes on for Alabama. I would obviously keep an eye on a lot of the front seven as well too, just because we know they can be explosive.
Yeah, I mean, Ross, like he's a guy that I was waiting to step up for a while because he was a 5-star guy, and he's probably best known for running into the punter in the Arkansas game last year. And
he's redeemed himself, Jordan.
Oh yeah, he definitely did. I mean, against Arkansas last week, he led the team in sacks with 1.5. So I mean, that was his first big breakout game of the year. But I'll give you another defensive lineman that's starting to break out too, and that's Caleb Herring, another guy that's been in the system for a little bit that's starting to show a little bit more promise as well. But if you're talking about like the number one defensive lineman I would worry about if I was Alabama, it would be Josh Josephs, who I think was preseason All SEC before the season. I could be wrong, but I mean, he's a guy that's been on Tennessee's roster for a while that was always showing glimpses, but he was just overshadowed by James Pierce more than anything. But now he's finally like the guy on the defensive line. So he's a guy to look out for. And Tucker already knows my boy Colton Hood. I think that this could be a good game for him to prove himself. I mean, when he was at Colorado, I think that he wasn't looked at as much as I think people should have. He was 13th in the country in interception return yards as a backup, and with only, I think he had 2 picks. And if you just looked at his tape then, he looked like he was going to be a good player. And so far for Tennessee, he's probably been the best defensive back on the team this year. And then like an offense, I mean, Tucker's already brought up Brazel. He might be trying to replicate what Jalen Hyatt did a couple of years ago. I know that's what a lot of Vols fans would hope for, and I've seen some stuff online about that. But yeah, I think like just the tandem of running backs as well. Star Thomas and Deshaun Bishop, like Star Thomas, exceptional at catching the pass and getting you like good 10 yards here and there, more of a situational back. But Deshaun Bishop had a huge breakout game, and as long as he's healthy, because he did go down at one point in the game, but Josh Heupel's hinting that he's going to be playing this Saturday. If Deshaun Bishop can get going, then that could be the difference in the game.
Key players to watch for, Brody.
Well, obviously you got to start with the trio of wide receivers that Alabama has. That group is combined to record over 1,000 receiving yards, 12 touchdowns. I think that unit is very solid. Obviously the past few weeks kind of seen a lack of production from Ryan Williams. Maybe this will be the game that he, picks things up. But Horton and Bernard have been consistent all year long. I also look at a guy like Kevin Riley, especially with Jam Miller questionable. Don't know if he's going to play. Kevin Riley's going to have to pick up some of that slack, and he's good out of the backfield. He has 100+ receiving yards. He's a good runner too. And then another guy that I got my eyes on at running back to add some bit of juice, bit of depth is Daniel Hill. Hadn't got many opportunities this year. I look for him to get several opportunities this weekend. Defensively, I think the key players are Jan Zapier and LT Overton. I think that they're going to have to be disruptive and cause a lot of pressure on Joey Aguilar and get him out of his comfort zone. I feel like those two players are key. And then obviously Justin Jefferson and Deontay Lawson at inside linebacker, especially Justin Jefferson's been playing extremely well.
He's been moving on up and finally getting a piece of that pie.
Yeah, man. Like you said, he got that additional year. He seems to be taking full advantage of it. He's got 20 tackles in the last 2 games combined. But I look for those guys to be key players in this weekend's matchup for sure.
No doubt. I mean, like LT Overton, he played a huge part in Alabama's victory over Missouri. And,
Yep.
Justin Jefferson at that 7-minute, 30-second mark on 3rd and 11 against Missouri. Like, boom. I mean, there's one guy I'm really thinking about, and that's Dijon Lee.
Yep.
I'm so thinking about this guy. If nobody knew his name before last Saturday, well, you know him now because he was clutch.
Yeah. Like you said, he's he's finally starting to get more opportunities, and defense coordinator Kane Womack said that he could see him, basically said that he could potentially see him being a starter before the season's over. But a guy that's 6'3", 6'4", was a 5-star coming out of high school. Definitely got some opportunities last week. I expect that to be the case, for him to get even more opportunities this weekend against Tennessee.
Oh man, there's one guy on that list that has not been mentioned. Latsier Brooks.
Yep.
Man, I would hate to be on his bad side because he'll chew you up like a chicken nugget.
Latsier Brooks, he's one of those guys that's kind of similar to Jalen Waddle. A guy that can play the slot. He's very he might be little in stature, but he's physical. Very fast. He's a big play waiting to happen. And that catch on 4th down in the Missouri game was a huge moment. The big one of the biggest catches of the year. So he's made several key catches, and then obviously with whatever's happening with Ryan Williams in terms of the injury and lack of production, you could look at a guy like Latsier Brooks to step up and play the slot and get more opportunities. So I could definitely see him having a big game this weekend too.
Ooh. Another one on defense is Bray Hubbard. He's gonna have some more big games before we know it.
Yeah, Bray Hubbard, he struggled in week 1. Everybody was attacking him on social media kind of, and rightfully so. But Bray Hubbard's a guy that's finally got his opportunity to shine this year and is taking full advantage of it. You kind of saw a glimpse of that last year, but he's picked things up this year where he left off last year, and he's a leader on that defense, and he's going to be tested over the top. Like they said, you got Chris Brazzell, you got Braylon Staley and Mike Matthews. So they're going to present some challenges. Miles Kitselman as well. So I think that the Bray Hubbard and the rest of that Alabama secondary is definitely going to be put to the test.
Well, and before we move on to the next topic, I wonder who that X factor from Tennessee is.
Well, you would think Joey Aguilar is going to have to be mentioned in that conversation. But can somebody step up and on that defensive end too? And Colton Hood is one that Jordan mentioned already. He's had some big plays for Tennessee this year. Making big plays in the secondary, scoop and score in the first game of the season against Syracuse. You had one in that Mississippi State game, a pick 6 as well. So there's a couple guys that you can throw around in there. In the passing game, it's hard to say who exactly that could be because it feels like it could be a different person each game. Obviously, Brazzell has been the go-to guy at wide receiver for most of the season. Arkansas did a very good job of taking him away in this game, but Staley and Kitselman picked up the slack. So if Bama really is trying to limit his touches, then I would say one of those two guys could be in that discussion as well. So those two, and then maybe if Tennessee gets somebody to step up at linebacker potentially, shut some things down, limit some yardage that Bama gains on, say, screens or wheel routes out of the backfield. Whether that be Arion Carter, Jeremiah Telander. Arion Carter had a career game at Mississippi State with tackles. He had like 17 in that game for Tennessee. So that's a guy that I would be watching out for if I'm Alabama because linebackers, Tennessee has been plagued by slow linebacker play for the better part of 15 years now. But Arion Carter, that's a dude that watched Al Wilson highlights when he was in high school, when he was committed to Tennessee. So be looking out for him.
Yeah, like you said with like Arion Carter, I mean, he's honestly, the linebacker core might be the weakest position group on Tennessee, if we're being honest. I mean, but Arian Carter, like you said, he stepped up big time against Mississippi State. He did have 17 tackles in that game. He's definitely going to be a guy to keep an eye on. But I mean, if he was to go down, then Tennessee would have some serious issues, especially with how well, like, at least from the little bits that I've seen of Ty Simpson, I mean, he can throw it down the middle of the field with ease. And that could be an issue if, like, Carter was to go down. But another defensive player, I mean, I feel like we've mentioned most of them. I mean, because a lot of them come from the defensive line. I mean, you could see someone like Ty Redmond step up. I'm pretty sure he had a decent game against Syracuse, if I'm not mistaken. But he's also a freshman too. So I would imagine that Alabama is going to be targeting him a lot. That's going to be something that he's going to get his reps in during this game. That's for sure. But offensively speaking, I mean, can I just count 5 guys as one? Because the offensive line unit has been, I've been saying it every week, and it's because I don't think I've seen this good of a Tennessee defensive line since they had 5 starters end up going to play in the NFL under Derek Dooley. And even then, Tennessee was god awful during that time. But I mean, they put people in the league. But Tennessee's offensive line right now has been playing exceptionally well. And like Tucker said, like even with injuries and everything like that too, I mean, it's just amazing how they've been able to step up so far. I mean, Tennessee's tied for number 8 right now in sacks allowed, and they are number 2 in the country in tackles for a loss allowed. And if you go look at the box scores at the end of each one of these games, Tennessee might give up like 2 tackles for a loss at most, and maybe a sack, if that. I mean, that's how well the offensive line's been performing this year. And I think the offensive line might be the biggest key for Tennessee, especially if they can get the ball moving on the ground, which will be important, like I mentioned earlier.
It's going to be a wild ride on Saturday for sure, seeing what's going to be happening. And that gets us to segment 3 of this show, the keys to victory. And gentlemen, we'll start with you. We'll start with Tucker, then we'll go with Jordan, and then Brody.
Ooh, keys to victory for Tennessee. This is a night game on the road for Josh Heupel, something that has not gone particularly well in the Heupel era. There have been some funky losses in there. I would not characterize a loss to Bama on Saturday as a funky loss just because they've got a number in the single digits next to their name, and hadn't happened in 22 years, Tennessee winning down in Tuscaloosa. So, but on that note, one thing that is an issue for this Tennessee team on the road at times is, can you weather the storm with the environment? The pre-snap penalties in particular are something I'm looking at. I counted them up in the Mississippi State game when the Vols were on the road there earlier this year, just 2 in that game. I think there was a false start at one point, maybe in the second quarter, and then one late in the game. But Tennessee overall did a good job with that one. We'll see what happens this time around. So I'd say that's one key for me. Can you have some form of resistance both in the run game and once the ball passes the line of scrimmage, I think is the big thing, because we haven't mentioned it. Jordan said the linebackers were Tennessee's weakest group. I'm going to disagree with that. It's the safeties that are Tennessee's weakest group on this team. Tennessee took a pretty big loss earlier this season with Jacoby Thomas going to Miami. And this was a guy that was used as a starter, but also rotationally for Tennessee. But honestly, a bigger loss than Nico. And you got 2 guys back there, and Andre Turrentine, who's been in college for a while, but has only been starting the last couple seasons. And then you got a true sophomore in Idris Farouk filling in where Jacoby Thomas was. Alabama's got their white lightning in safety at Bray Hubbard. We had our white lightning last year with Will Brooks, who made 3 critical plays in that Alabama game that helped Tennessee win it last year in Neyland Stadium. So can you have any kind of resistance once the ball passes the line of scrimmage? I think is the big thing. Not so concerned about time of possession like they are in the comments. I'll be completely honest. If you look at Tennessee's results this year, they're 5-1, and the only game where they've won the time of possession battle is ETSU. So I'm not overly concerned about that. But it's, can you slow them down a little bit in that regard? once the ball passes the line of scrimmage. And then offensively, I think, too, you got to establish the run game. You've got some promising young backs in this group. It's not just Deshaun Bishop. Star Thomas has had his moments this year. Peyton Lewis did a good job filling in for Deshaun Bishop once Deshaun Bishop went down in that Arkansas game. So can you establish the run as well? And I guess you can mix this in with pre-snap penalties, among other things. But you've got this notion of weathering the storm on the road for Tennessee, because things are going to happen on the road that you don't want to happen. That's just how life is on the road in the SEC. Can you weather those things? Can you bounce back from it? Because we saw in 2023 in that Tennessee game down in Alabama, second play of the second half, Jalen Milroe hits Isaiah Bond for a touchdown pass. The very next kickoff, and this is still a mystery how they thought that Jeremiah Thielander waved for a fair catch on the front line of the kickoff return team. That's some questionable officiating right there from Ken Williamson, who has not covered himself in glory lately. If you watch that Georgia-Auburn game this past Saturday with the whole timeout situation, that was just ridiculous. But
that's not a timeout. I'm clapping.
Yeah, you're just clapping. Exactly. But no, I think you have to be able to weather those things. Officiating ultimately does not cost you a game. I am a firm believer in that. And Tennessee was not able to weather those things in Tuscaloosa last time. So if I had to give you some early keys, those would be the ones.
Yeah, I have to say that, I think the run game is going to be arguably the biggest thing in this game, because I think Ty Simpson and Joey Aguilar and especially the wide receivers too. I mean, as far as quarterbacks and receivers go, I think Tennessee and Alabama match up pretty well. So what would be the difference in that situation? It would be the running game. And I think Tennessee does have a dynamic running game, as Brody mentioned earlier, about 200 yards a game. So if Tennessee can get the ball rolling, I think that could be a problem with Alabama being able to stop the run with that. But yeah, Tennessee's not known for time of possession. And like Tucker mentioned, won almost every game while losing the battle of time of possession. But it would be interesting if Josh Heupel could try to hold the football a little bit longer, because with how high scoring I think this game could be, if he could milk some of that clock, which he's like I said, he's not known for, but if he could just make some adjustments to the game, that could be a difference. But I've watched Tennessee enough under Heupel to think that that's probably not going to be the case. They're not going to hold the football. They're just going to try to outscore you. And I guess like I said, I guess the run game is probably going to be the biggest thing in that situation, because I think both teams can go back and forth passing, especially with how Tennessee's defense has been. And you guys would know better than me with Alabama's defense, but I would imagine you guys would be able to stop the pass better than Tennessee would. So I think Tennessee's got to get that run game going.
Brody, what are our keys to victory, good buddy?
Man, I always go back to the saying, football games are won in the trenches. And, I think this game's no different. I think that, in order for Alabama to come away with a victory, you got to be able to stop that three-headed monster they got at running back. Excuse me, with Deshaun Bishop, Peyton Lewis, and Star Thomas. Alabama, they've had ups and downs trying to stop the run. Had a really good week last week against the nation's leading rusher, and Ahmad Hardy. But on the flip side, I think that Alabama's also got to be able to run the football. I think Alabama has to be able to establish, the line of scrimmage, and that was something that they did the last 3 weeks. I think it was pivotal that Alabama was able to run the football. And like I said, Jam Miller being back was a huge boost, but you don't know what his status is for Saturday. So if he's unable to go, somebody's got to step up in his place, whether it be a Colin Deere, whether it be Richard Young, Dre Washington, or Daniel Hill, for that matter. But I think this game's going to be won in the trenches, and ultimately I think that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The running game is going to be key on both areas for both teams, and time of possession is going to be a good one. Because, I mean, it's like, I know like everybody talked about clock management on Tennessee, Georgia, but I know like Tucker and I have talked about it numerous times Sunday and on Rock and Rant and on Volunteers Live. It almost cost against Mississippi State and Arkansas, where I'm kind of like, that's why I've got this game being very close, because time of possession is going to play a huge part in it.
Yeah. And I don't know, Jackson, if that's as much time of possession or if that's just situational awareness. It's one of the two things. I lean more towards situational awareness because, and we've had this discourse around our channel and just in different forums around Tennessee football. But you have a guy in Josh Heupel who let's flash back to 2022, third Saturday of October. Will Reichard misses the kick. Tennessee's got a few seconds to try and get into field goal range. He does. He gets the timeout off just in time. Does 2025 Josh Heupel do that? I think the answer is no. Does Tennessee beat Alabama in 2022 if Josh Heupel doesn't decide to go down and kick a field goal in the final few seconds, because you just don't know if you're going to get an opportunity to do that? And that's one thing that does worry me with Tennessee in a close game is, like, you saw the end of that Mississippi State game. You had timeouts at your disposal, but you bled all of this clock. It's like you didn't trust your kicker. And what ends up happening is you throw a Hail Mary that is A, well short of the end zone, and B, very well could have been a pick six and an upset win for Mississippi State right then and there. So, look, if you're going to go down in a blaze of glory. Don't turtle up and crawl into a little ball and try and die in this little hole in the wall. I'm not trying to rhyme or anything here, but you get what I'm saying. Don't, like, if Tennessee is going to lose this game, don't be cowardly in doing it.
No doubt about it. Well, that leads us to our last segment of the show, score predictions for the 2025 edition of the third Saturday in October. And Brody, we will start with you, since you got some dinner you got to go eat with the family, man.
Yeah,
what
man.
for dinner?
I'm down here at the beach, man. Probably going to get some seafood. It's our last night, so, got to go with seafood. You can't get it every night back home. So, but, as far as score prediction, man, I've kind of wavered back and forth, on whether it would be high scoring or low scoring. I'm going to say 35-31 Alabama. I think it's going to come down to the wire.
Will Sean McDonough throw his puberty voice in this 2025 edition of the rivalry?
Man, I don't know. I don't know, man, but it's going to be it's going to be a ruckus atmosphere, man, and ultimately the fact that Alabama's at home, and they've lost twice at home in like the last God knows how long, so and two of those teams that beat us were Texas and LSU. I think that this Tennessee, I think their offense is probably the best one that Alabama will see all year. I do think that, and that's part of the reason why I have them scoring 31 points. But, ultimately, I think Alabama comes out on top.
There we go. I mean, like, that would be cool. Like, if we hear Sean McDonough getting excited at a game-winning touchdown, well, I mean, on our end, of course, but like he was for the Cleveland Guardians of Game 2 of the AL wild card between the Guardians and the Tigers, like, that would be nice. But Jordan, we'll go with you second, man.
Well, I mentioned it yesterday on the show that we were on, and I think that it's going to be 38-35 Alabama. And the reason why I think it's going to be that is because I think both teams are going to score. I don't think they're going to put up crazy numbers. Like, I don't think you're going to see the same kind of score that you saw in the 2022 game. But I think both teams are going to put up points. And I just think ultimately Alabama's going to win. Like Tennessee, it came down to the line against Georgia, and we know how that went with the missed field goal. So I don't know if I trust Tennessee to be in an opportunity to tie up a game or anything like that if it comes down to it. although I could be wrong because Gilbert hit his season long last Saturday, which I think was 50 yards on the dot. So maybe things can change, but I mean, I think that both teams are going to score, like I said, and I think it's going to be close. I don't think either team's going to blow each other out because I think they're pretty comparable. I mean, if you just look at the stats and stuff, I think Alabama does have the better defense overall. But I mean, Tennessee's offense is one of the best in the country, scoring the most points per game of any team in college football. But I don't think Tennessee's going to get 50 points against Alabama. I can guarantee that.
Oh man, that would be awesome if we can see it be a high scoring game. That'd be terrific right there. And Tucker, we go to you next, good buddy.
Well, I said literally the same thing as Jordan last night, and I'm going to stick to it. I see Tennessee winning, or losing, I should say, 38-35. I'm not confident in a win in Tuscaloosa. Certainly not confident in kickers in Tuscaloosa after – do not give Terrence Cody credit. Daniel Lincoln botched that kick.
Yeah.
To be really clear about
I think
something.
he was hurt before the game, too, which I don't think people talk
the
about.
magic of the armpit of Terrence Mount Cody.
But you know what? Chase McGrath botched one later, and it still went through from 40 yards out. So I guess there's a little bit of revenge there. Still don't really trust kickers against Alabama, certainly not in Tuscaloosa. Max Gilbert already missed a game winner this year for Tennessee, which is rather unfortunate for the Vols. But no, I don't think Tennessee wins. And I also don't think you hear about Jalen Watts Jackson. I had to throw that one at you.
There you go. Oh man, love it. Oh man, that's me, I guess. My prediction is still the same. I've got this being a 28-24 victory for the Crimson Tide because I feel like the defenses are prepared for one another. Time of possession is going to play a humongous part in this game. The kicking game from both teams, that's a oh man, I should have mentioned this, but
Dalty's not good.
Ugh.
He's not good.
Man. I'm just waiting for the warden from Cool Hand Luke to go, what we got here is failure to communicate. Oh man. But I just gotta say, like, the special teams is definitely key to victory. And luckily, it's not going to have to come down to a field goal. It's just going to come down to Ty Simpson making those big plays. Aguilar's going to make some big plays, but it's going to be a tight one in a 28-24 fashion for the Alabama Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa. And the winning streak that dates back to 2005 over Tennessee in Tuscaloosa continues. And again, the last time Tennessee has defeated Alabama in Tuscaloosa was in 2003. The dark ages of the internet. And that concludes episode 32 of Alabama Primetime Live on Alabama at the Voice College Football. And Jordan, what magic are you cooking up on Tennessee at the Voice College Football and on Blitz Sports Media? I forgot to mention that to the audience, good buddy.
Yeah, well, over there at Blitz, I pretty much just cover Tennessee out there. I mean, I could cover SEC if I wanted to, thought about it before, because we're still trying to grow some things on the college football side. We're doing a phenomenal job, everyone out there. Ryan Lakeledder, killing it for Blitz, NFL game. But college, we're still trying to grow it out. So hopefully we could get some more people in with that. But yeah, just writing some stories, get a lot of creative freedom, so it's fun there. And then you know how it is at Tennessee Live. We're going to give you post-game shows. We're going to give you a show every single Monday at 7 p.m. Central Time. And yeah, just cut up, talk about football, and yeah, just talk about the Vols.
Oh, there you go, man. If anybody's got some Tennessee magic, it's these two guys, Tucker Harlan and Jordan Binkley. And I just got to tell you, what magic are you cooking up this week, Tucker? Because I'm like reading some articles, and it's like, man, my guy is making some magic. What you cooking up, good buddy?
So, obviously, we have our show, like Jordan mentioned, on Tennessee at the Voice of College Football. We did our show yesterday with Jackson. It was fun previewing the Third Saturday of October. Always fun to talk Phil Fulmer, Jeremy Pruitt, the Bear. Anybody else?
General Neyland.
General Neyland. All very fun people. By the way, I should mention this too. Jackson, are you familiar with the Bear Bryant and Nick Saban shrine in Bessemer, Alabama, known as the Bright Star?
Yep.
I've been there. I've eaten there. But
Nice.
Shout out my great aunt Diane. She lives down there in Hueytown. Have a lot of family from Alabama, so I have eaten there. It's a good restaurant. It's a very good restaurant, other than the fact that it's got this ugly red color all over it. Not sure what that's about.
I think it's pretty.
Yeah, you do think it's pretty. Gus Malzahn is hiding somewhere in there, though. Be careful. Gus Malzahn is hiding in the Bright Star. I did get a picture of that from my Auburn friends. So, but yeah, we're cooking up the shows each week on the Voice of College Football, releasing clips from our shows. We will be live post game after the game ends. Still have not taken up with Mark and Chris if the winner is allowed to smoke cigars on our post game shows. Don't worry, I don't think it will be us. So that's your problem, Jackson. And then Vols Wire. I cover recruiting. I cover some Vols and pro baseball as well. We're picking up in football recruiting. Starting to see some decisions, or getting closer to some decisions being made in the 2027 class. Obviously, baseball season has ended, so we'll not have anything to discuss on that front for a while. Although I will say basketball recruiting is beginning to pick up. Tennessee did get a commitment last week from four-star power forward Manny Green, and you may see a couple more guys commit to Tennessee here soon. Haven't seen a couple, or haven't seen as many of the top however many posts or schools posts for the recruits in this 2026 class. But you are starting to see them pile in. You know, they don't have to recruit as quickly for basketball, but all that's fun over there at Vols Wire. So you can find my work there. You can obviously find me at Tucker Harlan on X. I'm always talking about the Vols. Also talking about sports in general. You know, when I'm watching things, I'm a very happy man, as you probably know, that the Titans fired Brian Callahan.
Oh my!
So
brother.
As a Colts fan, I'm not.
No, we love to see that. And I'll say this too. We are very appreciative of the king himself, Derrick Henry. Great Heisman winner at Alabama. Even though he's a Baltimore Raven now, and I hate the Baltimore Ravens more than any team in the NFL, he was great with the Titans, and I'm always very appreciative of Derrick Henry. I was talking with my friends earlier today about guys from different schools.
Wasted the career of Henry, man. It's
we love him, and we love our running backs. We just wish, we could turn back the clock a little bit and get him back. So,
right.
Again, I'm a very happy man that we fired Brian Callahan.
Oh, I'm playing happy joy from Ren and Stimpy after hearing that news about Brian Callahan. Oh man. But I will say, of course, you can also find me on Jackson Johnson 979, where I've got numerous episodes of the Jacksonian, including my next one with Nathan Balmer Brown and Wild Ute, as we'll be discussing our take on the 2025 edition of the Holy War and what the possibility of Notre Dame USC being on Netflix after 2026 means for the world of college football. What does that mean? And of course, you can check out what I've got going on here on Alabama, the Voice of College Football, the Jacksonian, Jackson's World of College Football, Lockdown, West Virginia, and once week calls on the Feinbaum Show, except for today because they decided today would be basketball media days. But in all that being said, you can check me on Jacksonville CFB on @/Twitter and on Instagram and Threads at Jackson Johnson 543-908. But of course, Tucker and I also went on CFB Express with Rock and Rant discussing the history of the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry and the preview of that matchup. And I can tell you, it was a fun ride all right there. I mean, we've just been on like a media tour, haven't we, good buddy?
We sure have. 72 hours of Tucker and Jackson between the Voice of College Football and Rock and Rant. Always good to talk big rivalry games. It just occurred to me, we don't have a Vanderbilt affiliate at the Voice of College Football. Don't
No,
know
we
if we're
don't, but I know a few guys.
don't know if we're working on that. I do have a good friend who is a very good source in the world of Vanderbilt athletics. Don't know if we'd be able to recruit him, but he's a very good guy. I do know some people over, but it's tough with Vandy because it's a much smaller market, much more niche group of people that end up covering Vanderbilt athletics as opposed to say Tennessee and Alabama. So again, always good to talk with the big rivals.
Oh, no doubt about it. Same with you guys. And tell your friends, your family, and the cashiers at Publix about the magic that these two guys, Tucker Harlan and Jordan Binkley, bring all right here on Tennessee at the Voice College Football. And before we get on out of here, we've got the YouTube membership tiers of Alabama at the Voice College Football. For $2.99 a month, you can become a Crimson Faithful member where you'll have loyalty badges next to your name in the comments in the live chat and custom emojis to use in the comments in the live chat, and you get member shout outs. Like our good buddy, Godfather of the SEC, in which he believes Alabama will win 34-17 in the house that Brian built. Love the sunglass emoji, good buddy. And he's got that finger phone number 1 finger showing it. And we can find him at Dollar General. Oh, no doubt we will for sure, man. I would be happy to see you there, man. And you can check us out on the Saber Disciples tier for $4.99 a month, where you'll have priority replies to comments and access to a monthly hangout from yours truly, Jackson Johnson and Jeffrey Only Talk Sports. And for $9.99 a month, you can become a Bear Bryant legend, where you can connect on social media with each of us and give out content requests of any kind. Neither rain nor sleet nor snow nor the miserable weird Bama weather will put a stop to us from fulfilling your content request all right here on Alabama at the Voice College Football. And you can also find us on audio on Apple Podcast, Amazon, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And with that being said, we wish you all a happy Tuesday night, and stay safe, stay cool, stay away from the heat, stay away from that cold, and like, comment, subscribe, click on the notification bell so you never miss another video. And we will be seeing y'all Thursday night from Jeffrey and I on the Alabama Call-In Show, 9 p.m. Central Time, as we take your calls. Good night, everybody.